I am left without a response. I love when you lie. Yeah, yeah. I have no. Is this typical? Oh, is that right? I don't know. I don't know. Thrown me completely off my game, he has. All right, ready? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to call the meeting of May 28th, the public meeting of the Mount Pearl City Council to order. Welcome to those of you here in our gallery today. We have a number of things to do. Before we even get started, the first thing I want to make reference to is this, fellow councilors, is Municipal Awareness Week. And apparently this week we are all supposed to show appreciation for all of the good people in our communities who work for their municipalities, either in elected or official positions, everybody that does all the work in our community. And we have an outstanding group of people that do that. I even have a city planner who apparently loves me. So that's wonderful. And we love him, right? And everybody nods agreement. Municipal Awareness Week, to that end, I'm going to be signing a proclamation now in a minute declaring that in the city of Mount Pearl. We do, I believe, have a couple of events going to come up this week. Stefan, we do have a couple of events that you might address after I sign the petition, if you know them off the top of your head. Okay, that'll be good. Well, let's get on with the agenda first. I'll accept the motion to accept the agenda as presented. It is moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Are there any additions to the agenda at this time? Any additions to the agenda at this time? None? I'll call it then. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. The first item would be the minutes of the public meeting of May 14th. I will entertain a motion on the minutes, moved by Councillor Akers, seconded by Councillor Tessier, that the minutes be accepted as presented. Are there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, we will call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Business arising then not yet dealt with elsewhere in today's agenda from the meeting of May 14th. Please refer to the article number attached if there's something that should be addressed here now. Council, any business arising for this meeting? Going once, twice, three times a lady, nothing. That being the case, we will then move on with our agenda. And our agenda today, we have, beginning with our proclamations, we have two proclamations that we are going to sign today. The first proclamation is actually EMS Week. I'm not going to give you a test, Council. I am merely going to introduce the EMS chief who's here with us, Corey Banks. Corey, where are you? You're here. I'm going to want you to come up here with me, sir, if you would. All of you guys can come up. I gather there's going to be a picture taken, and that'll be good. They look very official. Why don't two of you go the other way? Two of you go the other way. There you go. I feel like if I have the heart attack now, I'm going to be okay. What? This is a good time. If you're going to get that pain or whatever, there's no good time, is there, for that? What I'm going to do, Mr. Banks, is I am going to read the proclamation into the record of the city, and then I'm going to give you this microphone here and ask you to talk a little bit about introduce the people with you and ask you to talk a little bit about your plans for EMS Week. And the proclamation, Council, reads as follows. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas EMS plays a critical role in public outreach and injury prevention and is evolving in its role as an important member of the healthcare community, and whereas first responders, emergency medical responders, and primary care paramedics, advanced care paramedics, and medical flight specialists stand ready to provide compassionate, life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas emergency medical responders are supported by emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, educators, administrators, researchers, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and others. And whereas the members of EMS teams, both career and volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of EMS practitioners by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 26th through to the 31st as Emergency Medical Services Week with the theme Healthcare in Motion. Good theme. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And with that, I will, on behalf of the City of Mount Pearl, affix my signature. And Corey, if you would, I'm going to ask you to use this microphone. Sure. Introduce all those fine uniformed professionals you have here with you and tell us a little bit about your plans for the week.
Sure. So to our right is Jamie. Jamie's a primary care paramedic here with our Metro Paramedic Service, and Marissa, advanced care paramedic here in Metro. To my left is Colin, primary care paramedic and emergency medical dispatcher, and Mark, who is advanced care paramedic and one of our operations supervisors. So this week we've already kicked off our EMS events on Sunday with a teddy bear hospital on Sunday, where we invited families and kids to come in with their teddy bears, and we gave them all little checkups. Yesterday we had a Heroes Give Back blood drive at Canadian Blood Services, where we invited other uniformed services to join us to give blood. And tomorrow we have a day-long mall display at the Avalon Mall for the public to learn a little bit more about us and our services. And at the end of the week we have our provincial conference, which is actually in Corner Brook this year. A little bit about our service here, paramedicine and medical transport with Eastern Health. We're responsible for local ground ambulance services within the metro region, which in our world is from Pooch Cove to Tourist Cove, out to the border with Conception Bay South. We also run the Provincial Air Ambulance Program, and we also run a medical communications center, which does about 50% of all land ambulance dispatching for the entire province. And our office is also responsible for the regulation of all paramedic practice in the province. And a little bit about our emergency services here in the local region. We have about 130 personnel on staff, and we respond to nearly 23,000 requests for service each year. About 17,000 of those are in response to emergency medical services. And in the metro region, we have 3 stations that we operate from, and one is, as you may be aware, located right here in the city of Mount Pearl on Topsail Road.
Thank you, Corey, very much. We appreciate that. Now we're going to get a snap taken here. You want to do this up here, or do you want us to go down there? What's best? What looks best, guys? Go down? All right.
We're going down.
We're going down, guys. Down it is. We're going to forgive you for not staying. Yeah. Let me just say that this is also for us a moment as well. We know full well that signing the proclamation and the work that you're doing is to make people more aware of your presence. We have a tendency not to be aware of your presence, quite frankly. The only time that we kind of think about you guys is when the emergency actually happens. And that ambulance showing up and the personnel in there and the work that they do. I've had personal experience with some of the personnel dealing with family members, friends, and others, and thank goodness not for me at this point. They're tremendously professional. You're worthy of all compliment. You're part of our uniformed services. It is critically important that we as a community recognize the value that you contribute to the development of our society. And so let me just say, on behalf of all of Council, we thank you so much for your service, so much for the good work that you do, and the best of luck with this week. I hope that it's a tremendous success for all of you, and thank you so much for this. Thank you. Our second proclamation that we have to sign today is about what we mentioned just a moment ago, Council, Municipal Awareness Week. We will read it into the record as follows. Whereas municipal government is responsible for the provision of services that enhance the quality of life of its citizens, and whereas dedicated mayors, councillors, and staff are essential for the effective governance of their municipalities, and whereas citizen involvement is essential for an active community, and whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize and encourage the contribution of all who work diligently for the improvement of our municipalities, therefore be it resolved Let May 27th through to the 31st be known as Municipal Awareness Week in municipalities in Newfoundland and Labrador, in recognition of the vital role of local government and in recognition of all those whose efforts now support it. And I will affix a signature. I do know, I'm looking at Stefan and I'm looking at Mr. Antle. I'm not sure. Which one of you knows what's going on here? Don't both of you jump up the one time.
I can start,
Mr.
Your
Yevchik,
Worship.
please.
Yep, I can start, and I can pass over to my colleague. Certainly, one of the interesting parts about Municipal Awareness Week, Your Worship, is that this is the first time that it's been recognized as a week-long, celebration. In the past, we've had Municipal Awareness Day, and I think that goes to show the significance and importance of local government in this province and how it's maturing and emerging to be a very vital service to the citizens of this province. We actually started Municipal Awareness Week actually a bit early this year because we did have one event. I won't say too much about it, but we did have our Waterford River Cleanup Blitz on Saturday, and that really began the week for the City of Mount Pearl, and I'll leave that to others to talk about. We are intending as well to do a display of our equipment on the Glacier parking lot, and I'll let my colleague Jerry Antle, Director of IPW, to talk about that. There will be also a Family Fun Day on Saturday to recognize the volunteers who are participating in the 20-minute makeover. And I don't know if Jason Collins, our Director of Community Service, wants to comment on that. Internally, we are, as we always have, our staff get involved in terms of Municipal Awareness Day. We will be having a trivia pursuit type of a day here in Mount Pearl about facts and figures about the City of Mount Pearl. That's usually held every year, and our staff really enjoy that. We'll also have open houses on Thursday in terms of public coming in, coffee and Timbits available to them. And on Friday, we have requested all our staff to wear their Mount Pearl shirts and jackets to celebrate Municipal Awareness Week here in Mount Pearl. And Your Worship, the last thing I'll say to this, and I'll sit down, is that we did meet with the Chamber today, and now given that it's a week-long event, we did mention to the Chamber we'd like to get some ideas from them about maybe how we get more interaction next year between the City and the Chamber in terms of Municipal Awareness Week. So
maybe our business community put up some nice signs.
But yep.
Right?
Yes, yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Mr. Antle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we'll have some of our toys, our equipment, on display.
It'll be toys for the kids, right?
On display for the week. We'll certainly have one of our new automated garbage collection trucks will be there on display. People can get up close and see how it operates. And some of our other pieces of equipment will be up in the upper Glacier parking lot throughout this week. And I think we're even planning on getting it into Saturday, as well. Saturday as well.
That's wonderful. Jason, anything for you to add, Mr. Collins? Or is everything covered? Everything is covered for that. Council, any comments? Does any of Council, after the abuse we took at Winter Carnival during the Battle of the Brains, do any of us want to get in on the trivia thing, on the municipal trivia thing, and take on staff? No birthstone questions and no geography questions. Otherwise, you're good to go. I think it's nice that it is going to be a week. Of course, as we know, PMA, the Professional Municipal Administrators, are also a part of this. Municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, are part of it. The Department of Municipal Affairs as well. And they are obviously encouraging both an awareness of municipal government, but also wanting to entice people to perhaps get engaged in municipal government and see whether or not this is an area of service that they would like to, be involved in, and perhaps serve their community in that in that capacity in the future. So it's a good year to make it a week, and it's a good time. So thanks for that, everybody. Any other comment on it?
Thanks to the planning department and public works and everybody certainly in the city putting in the efforts that they do to highlight what we do in Mount Pearl for the general public.
Amen to that. We're going to move along then on that note. We will start with committee work. We'll begin with our Public Works Committee. Councillor Walsh, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just a couple of items here, and one that's not listed on your iPads there that I'm just going to make a brief comment on. First of all, save the date. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday, June 8th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the depot. We will be having our annual household hazardous waste drop-off. This has been hugely successful. It's an opportunity for residents, obviously, to clear out the shed, the garage, the basement, and dispose properly of things like paints, oils, gas, batteries, the kinds of things that you can't typically put in the normal waste stream. This is something that we do on our own. It's not without a cost, and we really encourage residents to come out and participate fully in this. In the past number of years, we've had lines and lines of cars. It's been hugely successful, and we're quite confident that it will be successful again. The second item there, Your Worship, which is related to that, we actually had a request or an inquiry about explosive items, things like ammunition, unused fireworks, and included in that, and something that I would definitely have and others would have as well for various reasons, would be things like flares, safety flares and the like. If you're disposing of anything like that, the best thing to do is to contact the explosive device unit of the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, and they will provide you with the best advice in terms of how to dispose of a particular apparatus. And if need be, they would actually visit and make sure that that it's properly disposed of. Because sometimes, unbeknownst to ourselves, these things can provide incredible danger. So I'd encourage people to do that. But next Saturday, again, not this coming Saturday, Saturday the 8th of June, come out and dispose of the gas. The paint cans are the most common item, actually. Any oils or anything like that you have. Mm-hmm. The final thing that I want to just comment on again does go back to our garbage collection system, and someone referenced the automated trucks. In fact, they're still kind of popular, and they are a little bit of a toy to some extent. Everybody likes to try to operate the remote arm and that sort of thing. We have had overwhelming success. In fact, I know a number of members of council commented on a comment that was made on Facebook this last week or so from one of our residents, just giving a little shout out to the success of the system and the containers and the automated arms and all of that. There's one little issue or problem, and it's not a big problem, and it relates to accessing these containers, Your Worship. Obviously, ideally, on a flat driveway surface, it's best that the container be placed at the end of the driveway. On occasion, when the containers are placed there, and there's a sidewalk there as well, and that's not the case in all areas, but it is the case in some, and then you add the added feature of a parked vehicle on the street, the 10-foot extension of the automated system can't reach, and it actually forces our operators to get out of the vehicle, move the container so it can be actually reached by the arm, disposed of, and put back. We're trying to deal with troublesome spots and areas. We do really encourage where and when you can. First of all, if it's a garbage day, and it's a garbage day in Mount Pearl now, pretty easily visible, and these containers work really, really well with that. If it's a garbage day and you can at all, avoid parking on the street next to the containers, because it does present a number of challenges for our crews and for the equipment and for the automated arm to effectively get it. In some cases you can, but where there are sidewalks, that provides a particular challenge. Sometimes we've had a couple of complaints where because of sidewalks and the extension of the arm, the container may not have been properly placed in the driveway, may have been partially on a sidewalk. We have asked our crews, again, I think Mr. Antle, to correct that and make sure that when and where possible again, that they are placed back in the driveway. So things are going well, but we continue to work through little tiny bumps like that, and that's one. Again, if you can avoid parking the cars and blocking the trucks from being able to get, that would be a huge help. Really would. Anyway, that's it, and that's it for me with my report. Just some information, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh, for that. I too have had someone actually send me an email regarding when the container has been dumped, and the operator puts it back. They seem to be putting it back on the side, that it becomes a block or a barrier to people trying to walk the sidewalk. And of course, sometimes where it is in a driveway, it's a low-back sidewalk, so it's on a tilt, doesn't sit. Anyway, it is a little bit of an issue. I know that Public Works.
We are addressing that, though.
Yeah, Public Works is working it out, and you know, if that's the worst thing that comes out of this, we have a huge win on our hands with the. By the way, anybody seen a seagull? That's all I'm asking. Right? You know. All right.
Hungry if you have.
Hungry if you have. We thank you, Councillor Walsh. Moving on now, Community Services, Councillor Tessier, if you would.
Yes, if I could backtrack just for a second on the household hazardous waste. One thing that is actually household hazardous waste, which is not a new thing in our system, but we're probably disposing of them probably by now, are those coil light bulbs, those
Yep.
energy efficient light bulbs. Those are now considered household hazardous waste.
Yeah.
So where we would normally take a light bulb and put it in a container or wrap it in paper or do something with it to make it safe, but still put it in the garbage, you actually can't do that with those light bulbs. They have to be disposed of properly, and they are considered household hazardous waste.
Treat it like we used to treat the old fluorescent.
The old fluorescent lights,
Yep.
exactly, same
Yep.
kind of rule,
Yep.
right? And if you break it, you got to be really, really careful. You can't touch it. Same thing.
Okay. Good.
All
Good
right.
reminder.
Same thing. We have a brief agenda today, Your Worship. The first is just in keeping with past practice. The committee is recommending releasing of an amount of $10,000 for the staff cost associated with ground maintenance to the Admiralty House Board of Management, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any questions or comments? I noticed, Councillor, that the old greenhouse that was on the land disappeared as
Yes.
requested.
Yes.
And I understand there's going to be some other activity, including the
Absolutely.
removal of an old fence.
Once the old fence is down, then I believe that the actual whole ground around that area is going
Going to be redeveloped.
going to be redeveloped, going to be polished up a little bit. Yeah, and it's going to be an absolutely it's such a beautiful location for anybody who hasn't been there, like any resident of Mount Pearl, or certainly any visitor who hasn't been to Admiralty House. It really is such a lovely area, and when you're inside and you're looking out as well, you can really appreciate the grounds surrounding the museum. It's definitely well worth the trip.
We should be promoting it's a great place to get married.
It is a beautiful place to get
I've
married.
seen two weddings, actually. I've seen two weddings conducted there on the gazebo. What a great place to get married. Obviously, summer is here. Obviously,
John,
summer is here.
I wonder if it's a good place to bunk out when you've been kicked out of the house.
That's right. That's right. It'll be Councillor Walsh's new civic address will be in the annex over there
correct.
if he
That
keeps
is
this
correct.
up. We're going to call the question. We're going to try and save his life and call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Oh, gosh. Okay, the Mount Pearl Marlins have been very busy attending and competing in different meets. They have competed in the short course provincial champions. They placed second overall, which is outstanding for their group, of course. Gander Development Meet, the 14s and under, the Marlins received great results. The CBS Performance Meet, first and second placements. And the Spring Splash, many winners of the top FINA point and club records set for 50 and 100-meter butterfly. I'll tell you, if you've ever seen the butterfly done, it is harder to try than it looks. It's absolutely madness. So I'm always impressed by anybody who can accomplish that swim. So we want, of course, again, extend our thanks and our congratulations to the athletes and their coaches for all of their hard work and dedication with the Mount Pearl Marlins organization. The summer activity guide for 2013 should be in the hands of all the residents in Mount Pearl, of course, and it's in all of our city facilities. I saw it myself at the Reed Center last week. The general program registration begins Monday, May 27th for residents and will begin on Thursday the 30th for non-residents. And the aquatic program registration will begin Tuesday, June 11th for residents and Thursday, June 13th for non-residents. And that is it for community services.
Thank you. We are moving on. Corporate Services, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another quick agenda here. First one is tax deferrals for low-income earners. We have two here, and this is in keeping with our policy, and I so move.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Carried.
Next one is request for tax consideration. We're approving the business tax exemption for 2013. The business is outlined here. All efforts have been taken to try to collect this. So this must be, oh, sorry, this is not a write-off. This is an exemption. My apology. This is a business tax exemption for 2013. This is in keeping with our policy for non-profit organizations. The amount there to be written off is $2,682.36, and it's for Metro Business Opportunities, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. My question
not
is, what is
sure.
Metro Business Opportunities?
Why would they be
is it consultation with?
Well,
Dave?
Councillor
Councillor
Aker may know
knows?
something. You
Yeah.
can
I
add to
do
our
recall
education.
this from last year. I think
Planning?
what they are an organization that came out of when the cod fishery declined. Came out of Tags and that. They are located here in Mount Pearl, and they do help people retrain and find work. They are a nonprofit agency
That's right. It did come
who
up last year.
are into employment counseling, job finding, and the like. And that's really all I can add to it, Your Worship.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think
Mr.
that
Silver
question
may
was
have
asked
something?
last year.
Yeah, you're correct, and I think they're tied into the province as well. So there's actually some social assistance programs that are tied into there. Basically, it's one of the programs to help people kind of transition off some of the social assistance programs at the province and into entrepreneurial roles and business in the community.
Okay, good. All right. We'll call the question then. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Aker. It did come up last year, and you're right on that, yeah, and Mr. Silver as well. Next item, Your Worship, are the invoices for,
Hello.
yeah, the invoices for council approval. We got 14 items there, Your Worship, outlined, and they total $2,988,205.34, and I move that this amount be accepted as presented.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Aker. We have invoices listed 1 through 14. Any question, comment, or inquiry on any? Question or comment? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And you can see the big one there, Your Worship, is the Pearlgate Recreational Multiplex at $2.1 million. So that was the big contributor.
That's the big
to
ones
these.
of that.
Indeed. Yep. Good segue. Yeah. And the last item for me, Your Worship, for our committee today has to do with the new mental health awareness campaign, which I think is very beneficial. Senator Michael Kirby has been working with groups and organizations right across Canada, including the Canadian Mental Health Association. And the purpose of this initiative is to develop education and awareness campaigns that focus on mental health in the workplace. It's entitled Not Myself Today campaign, and it officially launches on June the 6th. The city, of course, is going to be a partner with this to create awareness among our own employees, again, about the importance of good mental health. And I guess the pointers to look for, you know, if you take care of your own mental health, as well as to look out to your colleagues and your co-workers for any employee assistance or assistance that they may need. I think this is a great initiative. Our program is going to officially launch on June the 6th, and the plan over the next year is to conduct and hold a series of, seminars, awareness sessions, promotional material to distribute again throughout the various workplaces in the city of Mount Pearl. So again, I think it's a great initiative. As we all know about the mental health issues in our community, in many cases they're not spoken of, they're swept under the rug, and I think this is great that this is brought out because it's a lot more common than many people speak of. So I just commend the city for taking this initiative to participate in this particular campaign.
Here, here.
And that's it for our committee.
This is a very positive thing.
Indeed.
You know, one of the biggest problems we deal with when it comes to addressing issues of mental illness is the word stigma.
Right.
It is unfortunate that that continues in the 21st century to be a reality for us. The more of this kind of activity we can engage in, the better. And I know that all of our workforce, union, non-union, management, supervisory, directors, everybody will be, I'm sure, engaged in. And I think I can comfortably say that council applauds and will support this 110%. You know, it's wonderful. Councillor Tessier, comment?
I think this is absolutely fabulous. When I read it in the agenda package this weekend, I was so impressed. But I hope it's something that we continue with. I hope it's a consistent message that we're going to bring forward with all of our staff as well, because the more you talk about it, the easier it is to talk about it. I remember years ago hearing a woman say that she didn't understand mental illness. She said the worst thing that ever happens to her is she gets really blue in the winter. Gets really blue. Now that's seasonal affective disorder. But nobody knew to call it that, and if you put a title on it, she would say, no, I don't have that. I just get really sad and blue in the winter. So I think it's really important. The more we talk about it, the easier it is. If somebody said, I had to have a test done, a medical test, other people are going to relate and say, oh, so-and-so and this one and somebody that I know. But with mental illness, we don't really talk about it. And I think it's really important that it becomes very easy to to talk about, and I really think that this is an excellent program, and I
Let's
hope
applaud
that it's
it.
something
Absolutely.
that's consistent.
Hear,
That's
hear.
what I want. I want it to be consistent.
And
in that
just
approach.
one last point, if I could, it ties in
Senator,
nicely
yep.
with our strategy. You know, as the City of Mount Pearl, promoting the City of Mount Pearl as a good place to come to work. So to Councillor Tesler's point, I'd like to see this, again, continue as a part of regular practice in the City of Mount Pearl. I'm sure we can do that, you know, because we all know that at various times there's certain stressors that come into our lives. So it's good to know that we as a corporation, as, you know, as a workplace, support this kind of thing for our employees. So again, hats off to our staff for bringing this on.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that also conclude
That's it, Your Worship.
Corporate Services? We're moving on to Engineering Services Committee report. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Deputy Mayor, of course, mentioned under his Corporate Services report, mentioned the multiplex. And, of course, that's a good segue, as Councillor Aker pointed out, into our report. We start with an update on the multiplex. The project, as it stands now, is 48% complete. So we're almost halfway there, I'm happy to report. Of course, staff are currently working on an idea for an event to mark the 50% completion. It'll be coming up, I expect, in probably late June. There'll be more news to come on that soon, I expect. First thing, in terms of an update, though, we do have one change order that we're bringing forth this evening with the request to Council to approve it, and that's RCO number 21 for additional mass rock removal. There's a little bit more rock down there in the ground when we went trying to remove it to create the foundation. And the additional rock removal is going to cost a total of $67,567.50, and the Engineering Services Committee does recommend it for approval, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Questions, comments? All in favor? Reminded, motion is carried.
So just proceeding with the report, Your Worship. Of course, the steel is now 75% in place, and actually I believe the contractor has indicated that it may even be above 80% as we move into May. So we're certainly
Trees
getting there with
taking shape
that.
too. You can see it now. You can see the building coming out of it. Yeah, yeah.
Right. The tentative start date on the installation of the trusses for the roof, that's coming in early June. Currently replacing some of the windows in the existing Reed Centre. And as I say, we're almost halfway there, so it is really indeed starting to take shape. The second item on our agenda this evening has to do just an update for Council and for the public. A couple of requests for proposals that are coming down the pipe. First thing, our 2013 street upgrading, the first phase, for the request for proposals for the first phase. That's going to be advertised both in the newspaper and in the website. And that's closing on June 5th, 2013. The RFP for the Team Guju improvements, that's the second phase of the work we were doing last year down at the Team Guju facility with the parking lot and some other improvements. That's currently been submitted to Municipal Affairs, and that will be advertised soon as well.
Okay.
Finally, on our agenda this evening, we have the street markings or line painting. As you've noticed, no doubt, work has begun on the line painting throughout the city. Work began on the 21st of May with Topsail Road and Commonwealth Avenue, trying to, of course, tackle the major thoroughfares first. Work is going to continue as expeditiously as possible, weather permitting. Every effort's being made to get this done as quickly as possible. I know the contractor's working some long hours, getting started early in the mornings, so that's appreciated. Of course, we'll get it done as quickly as we can. The other part of this is that with the line marking pilot projects that we started last year, we're testing some thermoplastic line paint, of course, up at the intersection by the Reed Centre, Opal Centre Road and Smallwood Drive. We're going to continue with some of that work this year. Some of the areas where we're going to be looking at that possibly are the intersection of Opal Centre Road and Richard Nolan Drive. As well, we're going to be trying the double yellow centre line along Opal Centre from Nelder to Glencoe Drive. So as part of our Donovan's improvements that we're going to be investing in over the next period of time, we're going to try some of this thermoplastic line paint on Glencoe and Opal Centre as well.
Very good.
That's it for me.
And that's it for you. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to planning and land use. Councillor Aker.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. First item we have is a redevelopment of a property we're all familiar with on Commonwealth Avenue, 50 Commonwealth. Earl Consulting, on behalf of Capital Holdings, is proposing, I guess, three things. One is they're going to, this is the strip mall, by the way, where Dougie's is and House to Home and businesses like that. They're proposing that they will basically reduce the size of the existing building, and the purpose of that primarily is to add new parking to the area. And in addition, they're going to build a new building somewhat to the north, I guess it is. Would that be to the north, approximately? And that new building would hold I believe it's going to be a bank. In addition, there will also be 2 drive-throughs put into the development. One is to service a coffee-type operation, not a Tim Hortons, but another brand name, and of course another smaller drive-through for the bank. Generally speaking, these drive-throughs are judged by city staff, and we had discussions around in planning. The one for the bank is considered to be like a low-density drive-through, shouldn't generate a lot of traffic. The one for the coffee shop is not considered to be, given the nature of this particular branded business of coffee, is not as intense as a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's or the like. So it's considered to be a medium one. The stacking lanes are more than adequate. We have a small issue in that normally a drive-through, and of course this is the reason we're bringing this to council tonight, is because the drive-through is a discretionary use. Otherwise, I think this whole proposal could go right through the department and you would just see a development permit issued. Because it is discretionary, we had a public consultation process. I believe we had a briefing session which was scheduled for April 4th. We didn't get any formal responses, although we did hear from 4 neighbors and 2 of the tenants. The neighbors' comments, and this is informally to the staff, had more to do with they like their privacy. They live adjoining to the particular development. Our view in the department, as well as the committee, was that we're not making it any worse. In fact, we think we're probably making the privacy issue a little bit better, because we're de-intensifying this property. There'll be more parking there and less business use. We also had commentary from a couple of tenants who did not know exactly what was going on. Frankly, that's a private matter, and we're encouraging the landlord, the new owner of the building, to get in touch with the tenants and work out some type of a plan. And I'm assuming that has to happen, because physically, if some of the building is coming down, somebody's going to be displaced, and everybody will require, I guess, legal notice according to their leases and the like, right? It's a rather old building. It's not in the best of shape. The idea here is to reconfigure and revitalize it. I think as a committee we were prepared to move this. It looks like it's a step forward. We're not in any way, I don't believe, making it any worse. The issue with the drive-through is that normally you don't like to see a drive-through between the building of business as well as the street. But given the linear nature of the building and the length of the stacking lanes, in other words, this will mean that any traffic that does end up coming through the drive-through for either the bank or for the coffee operation, the way it's configured, it should not spill out into Commonwealth Avenue. So based on that, we're recommending that we approve the development application that came from Earl Consulting on behalf of Cabot Holdings, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Councillor Stoyles with a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. I heard from one of the residents that lives across the street from the development, and their concern was, and as you highlighted, the franchise that's planning on going in there is not a Tim Hortons. The concern that the residents had, and I know it's discretionary use, but they were concerned that if this franchise only stays for 6 months or a year, and then what about if a Tim Hortons was to come there? And Tim Hortons is quite busy. When we look at it down on the corner down here on Commonwealth and Park, and we look at it in other major intersections, and not putting anything down about Tim Hortons, no doubt. They're a great corporate sponsor in a lot of things we do, and I certainly, but in certain areas they don't fit. And I think the residents was concerned that if this coffee shop was to fail for some reason, or to close down or move in a different location, the concern was, could a Tim Hortons go there?
Yes.
Because there's already a Tim Hortons and it's already approved. But wouldn't it come back to council for another discretion? Well, that's my...
Just to add, forget the name. Doesn't matter whether it's a Tim Hortons.
He mentioned Tim Hortons.
Right? Any business with a drive-through that has drive-throughs today, once we approve it, could move in there and operate a drive-through. Doesn't matter whether it's...
Well,
so the answer is...
the question.
So the answer is if Tim Hortons or a franchisee wanted to go there, they'd be able to go there after this, would they not?
The issue is not Tim Hortons or Second Cup or McDonald's. The issue is the intensity of the drive-through. We in the department and the committee have determined that this is a medium density drive-through. I know that sounds like a cup of coffee, but at the same time, if another proponent came forth down the road, to Councillor Stoyle's point, and they were proposing a use, including the drive-through, that was of a high-density drive-through, I'm of the understanding that that would come back as a discretionary use to council, because the use has changed. It's more intensified.
I really think that would be wrong. But
perhaps it would.
having said that,
But the concerns.
I don't think. By the way, having
concerns
said
are
that,
legitimate.
I actually don't think it matters.
Can we check with the
Probably not.
planner and see, because that really makes a difference in the neighborhood. The neighbors really got a concern if, it's going to be, wraparound traffic trying to get in there. That's what they were concerned about.
I can't see how. Well, right. All
Yeah,
right.
well,
This drive-through, as I understand it, the configuration of the layout and the design is absolutely perfect. Even if it were at Tim Hortons, it's better than half the ones we got around. So, but I don't see how you could have a coffee shop there, have the coffee shop leave, have another coffee shop reply to go there, and say to them, well, you can't go there because we think you're successful. I'm sorry. I just think they'd have a tremendous argument in front of somebody if they wanted to. But I don't believe it's an issue at the moment. Anyway, Councillor Ledwell.
Just one comment on the drive-through. Of course, council might recall that at one point there was an A&W drive-through on that property, and of course, cars. There was room for a number of vehicles in the stacking lane for that particular business. I think that in looking at the development in committee, we determined that the developer here has done everything that they possibly could to try and accommodate as many cars as possible in the stacking lanes for this drive-through. So that's why we were very satisfied in bringing this forward. Going forward, I mean, who knows what can happen, but I would expect that we might have to make some adjustments if there was an increased flow for the drive-through and it became more than the medium-density drive-through that Councillor Aker references. But I'm convinced, at least, that the developer's done everything he can possibly do to accommodate as much traffic as possible.
Councillor Swell, please.
Oh, Councillor Walsh, go ahead.
Yeah. Just before we move on, because
Councillor Aker closes
once you
the
close debate, I think the commentary is over. Just a couple of observations. Looking at the plans here, and we've seen these before, this is really a completely different looking development. This has two separate buildings, completely different kind of formation of the buildings and locations on the lot. One of the buildings is sort of facing as much towards St. Andrews Avenue as it is Commonwealth. It looks like a good development to me. I do understand, and I sort of agree with the mayor in that I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to be so prescriptive in our qualifying as to what is a medium or high or low density. If it's a stacking lane, it's a stacking lane. So I think the residents may have some concerns in that regard. But I will say this. The purpose of a public hearing is to have the residents come out and go to the public hearing and express their concerns. If they didn't do that, they missed a tremendous opportunity to voice their concerns, because that's the appropriate venue to do that. So, I would encourage you, Councillor Stoyles, and the residents anytime in the future that if you have a concern about a development, they were also as just one property owner, so that's the time and place to do it. But obviously, I on the Tim Hortons in particular, and I know Tim Hortons is so well known. If you look in Mount Pearl, they have only corner lots in Mount Pearl. They take big corner lots. I don't think this would be suitable for them. It wouldn't be good for the neighborhood, to your point, but I don't think it would be a great location for Tim Hortons either. So I don't think it's a worry for the residents or for the development down the road in any way. It looks good to me, and I'd support it.
Well, just
Thank you. So you're going to close debate. Nobody else with a comment?
Nobody else has a comment?
Stefan, you wanted to add something?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just to clarify the regulations. I think the council will recall several years ago we actually did a lot of research on drive-thrus when it became apparent that we had some problems with a couple of our drive-thrus, as have most municipalities across this country, actually. And in our research, we discovered that a number of municipalities approach drive-thrus in terms of the type of business would actually use a drive-thru. And if you think about the type of businesses, they range anywhere from chicken takeouts to sandwich takeouts to coffee. Yeah, so you have a wide range. And some of the municipalities actually took a lot of traffic data, a lot of research, and several of them have come up with this formula, where it's not a formula, but more kind of a ranking of certain type of drive-thrus generate less traffic, They're not type of drive-throughs. So they basically have three levels of drive-throughs, basically a low, medium, and high demand drive-through. The type of use that's being proposed here is coffee related, but it's not a high traffic demand type of drive-through. Other brands, and you mentioned Tim Hortons is a good example, McDonald's is another, very high volume traffic users. They would have a longer stacking lane, more cars in that stacking lane than a medium one would. And that's how the regulations are set up. So if we did, and I believe, by the way, that this is going to be a very successful situation here for the developer and the potential tenant. If there is a desire to put in a use that has a much higher volume of drive-through traffic, then yeah, we do. It's intensity of use. We'd have to go through another process.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close debate then on this note. Councillor Aker.
Yeah, no, the point that started the debate is very, very well taken. We've had drive-thrus put in the city over the years, and basically it was all fine and dandy when it first started off, but then because of growth in business, change in menus, we've had the same business there. Even this business owner, who now puts in this coffee shop, and it's considered a medium-type drive-thru, ultimately down the road, because it changes in the menu, changes in the appetite for the particular product there,
Could end up high.
And that is the problem we're into. The point is still well taken, but if you look at the stacking lane that's leading into the coffee,
It's quite significant.
it's about 12 or 13 cars, which is one of the biggest in the city. And there still is options to configure, much like Tim Hortons has done in the other 3 locations in the city. They've configured them with double order windows to pick up the speed. So there are solutions. I would like to think, Councillor Stoyles, though, that if another business did go in there, that even though the regulations may not compel us to have another briefing session for a different type of use or a more intense use, I would like to think that this council would least would give a healthy look at it and take into account.
Amen. I agree.
We don't want to get complaints of cars spilling out onto Commonwealth Avenue. And, I don't really think any business does either, because if the cars are spilling out onto Commonwealth Avenue, which is illegal, you cannot park waiting for a cup of coffee. You can't park on the street.
No.
You have to move on. Those businesses, it's not in their best interest for that. They're losing customers. They're losing business, as well as creating a negative impression of their business. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll ask Worship, if you'd like, you can call the question.
Thank you. I just discovered something looking at the map here. I think the drive-through is my campaign headquarters. That's not good. That's not good. I think they're tearing down my campaign headquarters.
Are you declaring?
Can we hold this off till October? We're calling the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. I had that empty spot they're going to tear down. That's rented.
It's still going to be there.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to have a drive-through in the middle of it. As long as every car going through comes out of it with a sticker on the back saying, "Vote Sims," I don't care. Let them drive. Come on through.
Or you can have a slogan that says a campaign that you can drive a truck through.
You can drive a truck through.
Wait until he announces. Okay,
Oh,
the
my
next item,
goodness.
we have a referral regarding the St. John's Urban Regional Plan. It's an amendment proposed by the City of St. John's, and they normally consult their neighbors in the region. The department and the committee have no issue with this, but we need a motion of council, Your Worship, to approve, and then
So
send out the
moved.
letter.
And seconded by Councillor Ledwell. All in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
1273 Topsa Road. Country Ribbon is proposing to replace and expand 2 of the grain silos that are out there. They've existed here a number of years. Basically, they're going to take down 2 of the older ones and replace them, I think it's 2 of the older ones, and replace them with 2 rather large ones. This comes to council tonight because there is a bit of a hazardous use associated with feed silos, grain silos, in that the air, the dust and whatnot can be explosive. There is a good history here. We've never had any issues. We've had good commentary back from the fire department. One of the issues here is that I believe there's some setback issues, but those setback issues have been there for a long time. This proposal does not improve on the setbacks, but it does not make them any worse. And it's been an unwritten policy of council, I guess, basically, when we do not make a non-conforming use any worse, we normally approve these types of things. So I'd like to move that we accept the proposal for development by Country Ribbon at 1273 Topsa Road.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you. Now, moving right along, I'm almost there. I think I'm going to Junction Developments on Mount Carson
You are.
Avenue. In order to furnish a proposal for a condominium-type building, this is just south of the Masonic Park area. We've had a request from Junction Developments to rezone the area 79 to 115 Mount Carson from commercial local to commercial general. And this is for a condominium building that would be, I think, 1 story in the bottom would be commercial, and then 3 additional stories on top for residential use. If they were to try to build such a building, well, I guess it wouldn't be allowed in the commercial local, and that's because there's a limit of 10 meters on the height. So they've asked us if we would consider commercial general. Commercial local, as far as I know, is typically found in areas on Park Avenue where some of the older businesses are. And typically you see convenience stores, takeouts, small restaurants, that type of thing. Mount Carson has evolved into being a road very much an equivalent to and an extension of Commonwealth Avenue. Commonwealth Avenue is zoned for the most part as commercial general, so this would be in keeping with that. In addition, our municipal plan basically contemplates that this area would be commercial, so what we're asking for is basically a change basically so that we can accommodate the additional height. And it also gives the developer a few more options in terms of the permitted uses. For example, in commercial local, I think we have 8 commercial uses that are listed. And they're also, those 8 uses are also found in commercial general, plus an additional 21 more uses. So basically, it'll be a more robust proposal. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go ahead. The committee concurs as well as the department, and we're recommending that we change the zoning so that we can move on with this application.
It is
And I so
moved.
move.
It is moved and seconded. Question or comment? This is a development, by the way, I think we've wanted to see for some time.
It is.
It's very positive for the area, and I think it will drive other development in that area, which is good.
Yeah.
So we'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you. Next 2 items are notice of motion. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will, in Section 11.27, Use Zone Schedules, the Conservation Use Zone, Part 1, under subsection 1127.1, add, in alphabetical order, access and parking lot to the list of permitted uses, and B, sequentially re-letter the existing list of uses to incorporate these additions. Part 2, add immediately after subsection 1127.3, development in the floodway fringe and buffer. That's for 1127.4, and also development in the conservation use zone and the designated floodway fringe, and buffer shall be subject to Regulation 6.14. And the purpose of this amendment is to have the permitted uses of the conservation use consistent with subsection 6.14 flood risk corridor, which permits roads and associated structures. The next notice of motion. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will, in Section 11.12, Use Zone Schedules, Commercial General Use Zone under Section 11.12.2, A, add in alphabetical order apartment building to the list of discretionary uses, and B, sequentially re-letter the existing list of uses to incorporate this addition. And the purpose of this amendment is to correspond with the general commercial policy of the Mount Pearl Municipal Plan 2010, which states, and apartment buildings may be permitted in appropriate areas of the general commercial designation. Now we have for the benefit of Council, the development permit list for May 13th through to the 24th. Permits numbers 25 through 27. I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Now we have for the period May 11th to May 24th, we have the building permits. The residential for the period is $1,902,800, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Commercial for the same period, $174,400, and I so move.
All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
I have an update on the Waterford River cleanup blitz, Your Worship. I didn't add it to new business. Would you like me to do it under new business?
You certainly can, or you can do it now.
All right.
Entirely up to you. You want to do it
Well,
under new
with the
business?
permission of council, I'd like to do it now then.
Well, go right ahead.
And, we had a great turnout the weekend, I must say, for a cleanup blitz. This was the third annual, and every year, basically, it's pretty much doubled. And I really wanted to extend a big thank you to all, not only the participants, not only all the volunteers who came out to clean up the river, but to all the people who helped organize it. And it was led, basically, by a lot of the city staff, primarily in the Planning and Development Department, but also with contributions from corporate services, from IPW, as well as community services. We had approximately 160 people register. I think when we left here, there was 138. Anyway, 12 more people continued to straggle in and grab their bags and get their gloves.
That will be 22 more.
Thank you. Yeah, work out the math. I'm the accountant in the family, eh? Go figure, right?
I said accountant.
Yeah. That's 4 times the number that we had last year. And of course, we had to have staff here then to help out with. We had registration here in the chamber. Basically, then we all met outside. City staff basically had organized everything into 5 different routes. Leading the pack here was Steve Butler, Don Kelly, and Steve Barrett of the Planning and Development Department. We had corporate sponsors. At the last minute, we had the Royal Bank and Scotiabank each show up with $1,000 to contribute towards the cleanup. I think the Royal Bank's funding came from an organization called the Blue Drop.
The Blue Drop Water Fund, yep.
Yeah, which is into 2 main areas, apparently potable water as well as community cleanup, and we really fit the bill. The managers from both of those Mount Pearl branches were here, and of course Tim Hortons also contributed coffee, donuts, and prizes. And you can't limit, just because it's not cash, you can't limit the value of that. Everybody enjoyed a cup of tea, a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
Both coming and
It's
going,
huge.
right? Represented, many businesses showed up. RBC, Scotiabank, as mentioned, Tiller Engineering, H.J. O'Connell, the Bank of Montreal sent a team in. We had many of our community groups, like the Mount Pearl Lions Club. We had the Munro-Rotaract team. We had the Waterford Rotary Club. And I might add, the Waterford Rotary Club has adopted that river, all the way from the Southside Bridge, all the way into, I guess, the marsh area up there behind Rona and Paradise, right? You know what I mean? And they've worked that river constantly this year, and they were again in the forefront of our cleanup this past weekend. We also had the Grand Concourse Authority, the Mount Pearl Men's Slow Pitch League, the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce, the Northeast Avalon Atlantic Coastal Action Program. We had Church of the Latter-day Saints, as well we had the Conservation Corps of Canada. And on that note, the Conservation Corps has advised that the city this year will have 2 green teams, which will continue the good work that we started the weekend. They'll continue for July and August, teams of students who will both clean the river area, clean the city and other areas, Your Worship, of litter, and I'm thinking the commercial areas. They'll help to educate our kids who are going through the summer camp program, as well as have lunch and learns with the businesses on educating them about litter. And the city is sponsoring one of these green teams, and the Mount Pearl Chamber of Commerce, Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring the other. So that's really good news. The cleanup does not just start and stop on one day. It continues throughout the whole summer. And I'll leave others to comment on their experiences, but the river is looking a lot better. There's still a stove down there, and Director Antle has committed, as soon as I can find out where it is, to getting it out sometime later on. So there's a little piece of heavy lifting that still remains. In closing, Your Worship, I just wanted to mention to Director Yevchuk, I want to say congratulations. The staff in the department, they always act like a team. They acted with great enthusiasm. They love what they do. They gave up their Saturday to come in and do it. And it's judging by the numbers of people and the number of bags of garbage. I'm told by Public Works, I think the count was 240 bags of garbage. And at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest measure. And on top of it all, everybody had a bit of fun. So I just want to throw kudos to everybody who came and hope for a bigger and better cleanup next year. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to comment on
Yes,
this, or will I go to new business?
Well, I was going to comment on that.
All right, go ahead.
I wanted to say that it certainly was a great day, and as Councillor Aker had said, it was so great to see so many groups come out. I've been involved with clean-ups here in the city ever since I've been on council. The first one that Black and McDown did that they do in Donovan's, and they do it every year, the first Saturday in June, and they still continue to do it. And next Saturday they have their clean-up in Donovan, so I wanted to mention them as well. But while we were out, and of course, all council was out doing the clean-up, and I tweeted treasures, and one of the things that I found while I was cleaning was a photograph that was tucked in behind the branches. It's not damaged too much, but it's a picture of, it looks like the older part of Mount Pearl and a lady, so I'm thinking that maybe it's something we might like to keep and save, because it looks like a real old picture, probably from years ago, and it was, when we were cleaning up, even though it seemed pretty clean, it was still, like Councillor Aker said, there was still over 200 bags picked up. That's not counting the buckets. And I know one of the things I fished out of the river was a hammock, an orange hammock. I was tempted to take it to Kevin, but I said no, I got enough garbage. But it was great to see all the different groups out there. But things blow away and people lose things, and sometimes that's what it is. People, things just blown away in storms and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to pass this line to our staff.
Thank you very much. All right, we're ready to do new business. Last week we started over here, so this week we'll start over here. Councillor Stiles.
Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. The first thing I want to mention, and last week I attended the Police Officer of the Year, and this year was the first time that they didn't have a dinner. Over the past number of years that I attended, they had lovely sit-down dinner. But they changed their focus this year, and they had just a reception after at the City of St. John's. So I volunteered us to host next year. Usually what they did this year, they had a reception. They did their speeches and selected the Police Officer of the Year, and then they just had a ceremony with tea and coffee, more of a stand-up thing. So I offered and volunteered the City of Mount Pearl to host it next year for crime prevention and Crime Stoppers. So they will be coming to us to arrange that. And I wanted to mention the two winners this year, and it was Captain Rick Mills from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and Constable Robert Hall from the RNC, and of course I'm assuming we will send a letter of congratulations out to both of them. The other thing I have to mention, Your Worship, of course, is our focus on youth awards, and of course everybody on council, including myself, was at that event, and every year it seems to be getting bigger and bigger, and next year is our 25th anniversary, so I know we're going to do even bigger things again next year. We have so much to be thankful for in Mount Pearl, so many great young people, and the female this year was Erin O'Brien, and the male was Tyler Flynn. And not only those two young people, but all the other people that were nominated, and all the people who work with our young people, and all the adults, working with youth. Kudos to everybody, and is not only the people who are selected, is everybody certainly needs applause for what they do in our community. Also, Your Worship, I attended the Mount Pearl Cadets, which I've been a member for the past 12 or 13 years, hosted a ladies' night, and they pick a lot of local charities to give their money to, and of course breast cancer is one of the main charities that they give to, and they had their ladies' night. Of course all council was involved in putting that in, and I have a copy of this just to show the public how great it is to see council supporting such a great organisation. And Saturday night they had the zone for Kinets and Kinsmen had a banquet, first time they've ever done it for the zone, and the Zone 7, which is the regent here, raised over $66,000 for charities all across Zone 7, and I think it's 9 zones in Newfoundland, and of course Kinets and Kinsmen is all across Canada and worldwide. And I wanted to mention that, Your Worship. The other thing I wanted to mention, Your Worship, and of course was in the news yesterday, was Shani Duff, former Deputy Mayor Shani Duff, who's planning on retiring. And I wanted to say, and I'm sure, you know, I know she still has 4 months, but I heard the news, so I got a phone call yesterday evening, a little after 3 o'clock, telling me that they had just had a meeting, and she had announced to her council that she was planning on retiring at the end of this session. And I remember Shani, long before I got on council, through her and Julie Bentley and a number of women trying to get other women involved in politics. And I remember going to Shani's house 25 years ago for a luncheon to encourage me and other women to run. And henceforth I had invited Marie White and that's all. A number of women have gotten involved in politics, and individuals besides women, because of Shani Duff and all the great work that she has done here in the city of St. John's and in the province. I served on the M&L board with her, and I have to say she's a great lady, and she certainly has offered an awful lot to the city. And Councillor Tessier had mentioned the Mount Pearl activity guide, and there's a couple of things I wanted to highlight in the activity guide, and that's the seniors. Our seniors group, of course, is growing quite large, and they have in the program all the outings for this coming summer, and just wanted to highlight to any resident who is looking for something to do this summer, they can certainly join this group, 50 plus and over, and they're doing 4 bus tours across the province this year, and it's a great way for seniors to get out and have something to do, and it's all highlighted and it's on our website as well. And the other thing I wanted to highlight in our community booklet is our fitness centre, and during the summertime they offer 2 for 1 in our fitness centre, and until the end of June you can go to the Reed Centre and you can buy a membership, and you buy 1 month and you get a second month free. So I think it's great for anybody who is looking to get in shape for the summer months, and if they don't want to be outdoors, especially if they find it too cold, they can go and buy 1 month and have a second month free. So I wanted to mention that as well, Your Worship. And that's it for me.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will turn on my microphone, although I've never been accused of being too low on the voice. But today, actually, this was dated the 28th, and I'm so confused in the days and the time that I had to check with my colleague to make sure this was the 28th. This did come in today, and I noted for one reason. It's a little bit of a shout-out to Gower Brown, who's a resident here in Mount Pearl. And the only reason I mention it is that it sort of typifies, really, some of the generosity and the ownership and the commitment that people give. He's actually reporting some sod damage on the corner of Sunrise and First Street. The only reason I highlight the email is that he says that he's adopted this corner, and an awful lot of residents in Mount Pearl have adopted similar public spaces. The corners, in particular, of course, and the areas, on sometimes abutting 2 and sometimes even a 3rd street, actually is public property. And many of the residents, like Gower Brown, have adopted them. So we will eventually, in fact, I know we've placed his request for sod replacement on the list. That's really extensive, but we get to it as we can. But I wanted to just note the fact that he, like many, many other residents of Mount Pearl, has adopted a piece of land that he takes personal pride in. I know it's abutting his property, but it's still important that we acknowledge that. Your Worship, I want to mention water. After I returned from a brief vacation, it was baptism by fire and back to work, and there was no easing back. We had 3 regional committee meetings in addition to our own work last week and the ongoing council work. We had regional fire, regional water, and we had a meeting of the regional wastewater treatment committees. I just want to mention again, I know it's been in the news, particularly with the city of St. John's, with some concern that in fact, the so-called ongoing water conservation order was leading to a water ban. Based on the information we received in the meetings, that does not appear to be the case at all. The water levels seem to be good. That's really, really good news. In fact, ironically enough, we haven't had a water ban since the last municipal election year, which is in 2009. I hope I haven't jinxed it. No, the water levels are good. So unless something really extraordinary were to take place, we should be good. But it's really important, and the reason it is really good and that we'll likely avoid a ban is that we have put in place a conservation order that is ongoing. And it really is important for people to obey the conservation order, to restrict the watering of lawns, and I'll just reiterate it again, but it's important that you check the website if you have questions, because you'll forget these times, as I always do. Even on Wednesdays, Wednesday and Saturday, it's only from 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning, so 6 to 8 a.m., and again from 8 to 10 in the evening. And then the odd number on the street numbers, Wednesday and Sunday. The most important thing to keep in mind, of course, is it still bothers me, quite frankly, Your Worship, to see people using indiscriminate water, even for washing a car, that is even in compliance with the Water Conservation Order, frankly, because you're using clean drinking water, potable drinking water, to actually wash your car. And it still galls me a little bit, but it's okay to do that. You can wash your car, you can water the flowers or the shrubs, as long as you have a handheld hose and there's a shut-off valve on that. It's okay. So we're in reasonably good shape, but we are in good shape because people are becoming increasingly more vigilant about how they use water. It's very, very costly, as you know, and as long as we all sort of comply with the regulations, we should be in reasonably good shape. The last thing that I want to mention is the bulk garbage collection is ongoing. The one reminder, there are two reminders. The first is, please only place the bulk garbage at the curb on the week of your collection. We have had to actually issue not just warnings, we've had to issue citations in some cases where people have had garbage out 3 weeks in advance. That's not good enough. I know what's happening. They're cleaning out the shed or the garage or the basement, and they're saying, well, I got to get this ready for bulk garbage, just well to place it at the curb, maybe even in the hopes that we'll come along early and take it. It doesn't work that way. There are assigned crews and equipment to do that, because that's a big commitment of our manpower and our resources. It's really not good enough that it's placed 2 and 3 weeks in advance. The other thing is, we will make a sweep through the routes. We'll take the bulk garbage minus the metals usually, or maybe the metals could go first in some cases, but if the metal is left or one or the other is left, it doesn't mean we're forgetting about it. We're going to come back and make a second. The collection of metal has to be done separately. That's the gist of what I'm saying. Things are going well with it. There's a huge uptake. We only have 2 or 3 a year now, so it's important that if you have them, get them to the curb, but don't get them out early. That's the bottom line. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lidwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. First things first, I wanted to just say a word about a tender that we had awarded at our last public council meeting, and that's to do with our continuing and ongoing work in Donovan's, as well as the sidewalks that we're going to be installing on Topsail Road out near Mary Queen the World School. And I guess primarily I just wanted to update council and alert the public to the fact that work is going to be starting on those projects very soon. In fact, in terms of the scope of the work, we're going to be looking at street upgrading on Glencoe Drive from Kyle Avenue over to Civic number 142, and that's going to include curb and gutter repair. We're going to be doing a lot of milling and patching of the asphalt in Donovan's. In fact, approximately 6,200 square meters of asphalt. We're looking at doing some patching on that, so work is going to be beginning on that soon. And as well, outside of Donovan's, of course, we're going to be removing and replacing approximately 385 meters of sidewalk out in front of the Mary Queen of the World School. It's actually Topsail Road from Mary Queen of the World eastward to Civic number 727. So there's a lot of different work that's going to be happening. Just want to alert the public to that. The work is going to be starting in the next couple of weeks and should be completed by the end of August. We do want to sort of apologize for any inconvenience that's going to occur there, but certainly these are very worthwhile projects. The first two, of course, conducive to our continued investment in Donovan's Business Park, and of course the last one at Mary Queen of the World School. It's all about the safety of our children, which of course is very important. So 2 very worthwhile projects. Just 3 more very, very quick items. I want to make mention of the 807 Mount Pearl Kinsman Air Cadets. Both Councillor Aker and I attended their annual ceremonial review on Saturday afternoon past. Quite a show, a very impressive group of young people. Congratulations to them. Lots of awards presented, and the winners are too numerous to name, but suffice it to say they're a very impressive group. Also, on Saturday afternoon, I had the pleasure of attending on behalf of Council the Mount Pearl St. John's multiple sclerosis. They had the reward ceremony on Saturday afternoon, and it was certainly a pleasure to be there. I want to just say a word of congratulations to the president of the chapter for Mount Pearl St. John's, Zita Kavanagh-Taylor, who we had here in our chamber just recently, proclaiming the MS Week. She was awarded the 2012 President's Award for her contributions to raising awareness on MS and all the work that she does with the chapter. She's a resident of Mount Pearl, of course, and so a big congratulations to her. Finally, I also just wanted to make mention of our neighbours in St. John's, of course, Deputy Mayor Shani Duff, as Lucy has referenced, Councillor Stolz has referenced, I should say. She did announce her retirement yesterday, and I just want to, say a word of congratulations on a great career to her. Certainly, in my very brief career in municipal politics, I've had the opportunity, fortunately, to serve with Deputy Mayor Duff on the Northeast Avalon Regional Economic Development Board. I found her always to be a very classy and knowledgeable lady, so my kudos to her on a terrific career. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
Well, much of it has been covered, Your Worship. I, too, wanted to talk about the cleanup. The only downside to the cleanup on Saturday was I got a nasty sunburn on the back of my neck. I forgot to wear my sunscreen, so I certainly found it Saturday night. But again, I had the privilege of bringing greetings, Your Worship, on behalf of the city. And the comment I made afterwards was what I took most of, not the 200-odd bag of garbage. And I questioned that as well, because my bag of garbage was probably a third full. So I don't know if they're counting the individual bags of garbage or, the actual quantity. But what I liked both about it was I couldn't find any. Was the positive energy that was down here at City Hall, and the positive energy out there in our Centennial Park, and even on the trailways, which was that was most beneficial. There was an article that Councillor Aker forwarded from the Telegram that commended the city of Mount Pearl for taking this initiative, but unfortunately, it's sort of a lost cause, or you're going to have to do it regularly and all that sort of stuff. But my view is, if you take the initiative, and Councillor Aker spoke to this, that you're seeing improvements every year. You said it last year, Your Worship, the stuff you pulled out of the river. My view is, if it looks like a dump or a slum, people will treat it like a dump or a slum. And just if we can get more people out again next year, maybe next year we'll get 350 people, you get this attitude that starts to build in the community. That's the most important thing, What really impressed me, too, was the number of young kids, young people that came out. And we're starting there. The parents brought their children out. They were excited. So that's what we got to do. We got to make it a culture here in Mount Pearl to keep our city clean. The one thing that I did notice while we were going down along the trailway, unfortunately, was at this time of year, you see the evidence of residents dumping materials over their fences into the green spaces. I've raised this several times. I see it too often as I'm out bike riding on our pathways or walking on our pathways, that people treat our open spaces as dump sites. If they're tearing down their fence, they throw these concrete slabs out with the posts on it, old barbecues. It's incredible what people will throw over the fence. And I keep telling people that's not our space in terms of council space. That's everyone's space in Mount Pearl. That's our community space, so we all have to work hard to keep that clean. But kudos to all the staff. It was a great event, very well organized. And again, it's just another sign of the dedicated workers that we have here at the City of Mount Pearl. Councillor Stolz, my second item mentioned the function Saturday evening with the Kinettes, Kinsmen and Kin. I too attended that on behalf of the city. And I grew up in Mount Pearl, of course, quite familiar with the Kin and the Kinsmen, at least in name, but I had no idea what the level of work that this group does. Zone 7, I think Councillor Stoyles mentioned, they indicated it was the smallest zone, if I'm correct there, Councillor Stoyles. And there's 130 odd members, and they raised $67,000 for all these various charities. Amazing work what they did. I couldn't help but feel, uplifted afterwards. My wife and I spoke afterwards, and they do a lot of good work, and a lot of that goes unnoticed. So I did want to, again, tip my hat to those folks. They do tremendous work, so it was a great event. And the last item, Councillor Walsh was talking about bulk garbage items. Again, I took it on myself to drive around the city just to see what people are throwing out. And unfortunately, they're still throwing out stuff that we don't collect. They're still putting all this construction material out, and concrete posts and propane tanks with the valves still on it and all this sort of stuff. So again, just to remind residents, we send the information out. It's on our website. And I just feel for these people. They go through all the effort to slug all this stuff out, not to be taken. So either they got to bring it back in, or they got to load it on a trailer. So again, just to encourage the residents to check to make sure that what they are putting out is in fact stuff that we will take. But our crew is doing a great job. I did receive a nice compliment to our city crews about how quickly they've been filling in some of the sod cuts and sodding it over. So I did want to send that out to our IPW crews and community service as well, whoever takes the initiative on that. That's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier, new business.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also want to congratulate Aaron O'Brien and Tyler Flynn, our new male and female Youth of the Year, and of course all the other award winners. And I wanted to thank Megan and Adam for doing such a great job this past year in Mount Pearl. They were at every event. They were positive. They were well-spoken. They were exceptional representatives of our youth. So they just did a wonderful job, and I know that it meant a lot to them as well. They've done nothing but speak very, very highly of serving as male and female Youth of the Year, and actually spoke about how much they're going to miss it. So I'm sure that we're in good hands with Aaron and Tyler. They're outstanding young people, as were everybody who was nominated for any award at the Youth Awards. I also want to commend the Youth Action Team for Youth Week. They had a really busy schedule, lots of fun things on the go, and there was something for everybody, for young people in the city, and they do a great job every single year with that. Waterford River cleanup, I'm not going to repeat everything. It was a great time. But a stove does not blow into the river. A stove is put into the river. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't happen by accident.
You're correct.
Put there on purpose. And there's something very, very wrong. Yeah, there's something very, very wrong. So the more we talk about it, the more people recognize that's not acceptable behavior. Deputy Mayor Shani Duff, I've worked with her on the Northeast Avalon Regional Plan Committee. She is exceptional. She knows her stuff. And she will be very much missed, but I'm sure that she'll still play a role in some regard, I have no doubt, within her municipality. We have a neighborhood watch information session coming up. Yes, I know, you often heard of Neighborhood Watch years and years ago. You saw the stickers in the windows. Well, it still exists. And there's a Neighborhood Watch information session coming up for Mount Pearl residents. This is the Mount Pearl Crime Prevention Committee and the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary hosting this meeting. They're encouraging people to come out and get the latest information on crime prevention. And I love that word, prevention. If you can prevent it from happening, isn't that just the best thing you could possibly do? This session is on June the 6th at 7 o'clock at the Kenmount Park Community Center, which is on Holden Street. Tea and coffee is being provided by our good friends at Tim Hortons. And of course, if anybody wants any information on that, there's a long website here. They can contact the Mount Pearl Crime Prevention Committee, or they can call us here at City Hall, and we'll be happy to pass along that information as well. Again, it's about crime prevention, ways that you can...
Can we get a reminder maybe set out on that?
Actually, that's a great idea. Is that okay, Mona? 7 p.m. on Thursday the 6th. Yes, because I think it would be wonderful for us to all be there, but we'd encourage all residents of Mount Pearl. I mean, you should take care of yourselves, take care of your neighborhood. Prevention is very, very important. There's lots of tips and hints that they can provide to all of us, I'm sure. So it'll be a wonderful session to be a part of. So we just wanted to bring that forward to for the information of the public.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Aker? It's all done? The floor is yours. The floor is mine? Okay, thank you. Well, very quickly, I had the pleasure of attending the DARE program graduation at St. Peter's Elementary, 63 grade 5s and 6s. A lot of congratulations, a lot of handshakes, job well done, I have to say it. I never used to be able to go to these things that happen in the morning, and now I can. And so it was really interesting and fun to be able to do that. Apologize I wasn't here for the cleanup, but everybody on council, you knew where I was. I was in Grand Falls, Windsor at the urban municipalities meetings. There was a meeting there, though, just ahead of the UMC that would be of some interest to all of us. It had to deal with the 7 major towns that all lost their municipal operating grant funds this year. The purpose of the meeting was to determine whether or not we could come together, form a committee, a working committee, and whether or not we could come up with a process to deal with how we're going to address issues of a new fiscal framework, not just for the 7 towns, but also approve a terms of reference. The meeting was scheduled to go on for about 5 hours. It went on for about 90 minutes. Everybody very quickly had done the preliminary work that had been done by staff. I think it's fair to say, brought everybody together very quickly. Mr. Silver attended the meeting with me, and I think it was fair to say, wasn't it, Jason, that ended, everybody kind of came to terms with everything, and it ended fairly quickly. It was like we looked around and said, that was easy. Now, whether or not it is or is not, I will tell you this, the first major meeting to discuss the new fiscal framework is scheduled to happen on June 11th. And that, I think, will give us some insight as to the level of commitment the province really has on actually establishing a new fiscal framework with the province's municipalities. It is all going to be led by municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador. The actual working committee, and there will be two. There will be a working committee that actually deals with the issues of the 7 largest communities, which would be the 3 cities and the 4 largest towns that have populations of over 11,000. There will also be a committee which represents the other municipalities. There is also the actual steering committee that's going to be meeting on June 11th with government, bringing forward these terms of references, the items that we want to discuss, as well as talking about the process to be entered into between now and the end of the year. There's supposed to be a thing ready and agreed to, at least a piece, on how to address financial issues regarding our fiscal framework for the 2014 budget. That's early. So this is going to have to be done throughout the summer. There was even an agreement among the 7 towns on how, if we have to spend money on this, and I believe we will, that we will use that the formula that is used for membership in M&L will be the formula that applies to the division of cost for any, let's say, outside consulting work or any cost that the committee may accrue. So it was very successful, and it moved very swiftly. Just want to pass that along to you. One little item for the good lady down at the Telegram down there. Little concern with the story that appeared on the weekend, in the weekend edition of the Telegram. On the front page, I received some commentary from a couple of residents as well as a local businessman who's not a resident of Mount Pearl, expressing surprise to hear that the cost overrun on the multiplex had moved it from somewhere around $32 million to over $52 million. And he anticipated that council was going to get their knuckles rapped by the citizens as a result of that. I made some inquiries of Mr. Antle and others and determined that in actual fact this was a complete misinterpretation. And to be honest, the story that was put in the paper does not focus on that, and that is not the thrust of the story. But I can see where people got misled by it with the way it was written. Mainly because the story started off about Mount Pearl and the Lifestyle Center and the multiplex, and it was more or less, the story was about how these construction projects change as they're planned out and developed. And they use examples then of cost overruns on the Confederation building and elsewhere. So when they put the 2 figures in of $52 million for the multiplex, but it was originally 32, right? Which was a reverse of the reality. And then throw in the Confederation building and the increases there, and throw in a couple of other projects and increases. I can see where some people could get that kind of confused or mixed message. Just to clarify for everybody, the multiplex is currently, as Councillor Ledwell so proudly says, every council meeting is currently on budget and, please God, on time. And it's working out according to plan. The level of oversight on this project, because it is the largest project the city has ever undertaken, has never been tighter. And the result of it is that financially, this thing is going down the right road. It's not a criticism. It's just an observation that some people confused it. That's all, and felt that this project now was way over. And oh my God, are you guys ever going to get nailed by your citizens for that? When that is not the case. That's not the case. It remains on budget and on time at somewhere around $32 million when it's all said and done, and it will open in the spring or summer of 2014. I just wanted to clarify that. And having said all that, Shanny Duff, we love you. Just like the planner loves the mayor. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Akers says, let's do it. We are adjourned.